Sounds good.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Kathy Biehl, Professional Aquarian on YouTube, Andy Bassano Brewer. You can find him on Facebook, and me, Louise Edington, Cosmic Owl Astrology, with more post-election astrology. And we have some powerful aspects to speak about today. And excuse where I'm sitting. I'm on vacation in Sedona, Arizona, and having a wonderful, quiet Christmas, but we couldn't not talk about what's going on. So, Cassie, well, I'm going to talk about Chiron stationing direct, but Cassie has some other aspects, a storyline that we're going to look at. So,
So
Cassie, dive in.
we're going to highlight the four big astrological beats that are left for this year, and then we're going to see how they apply to a number of charts that will interest you and that definitely interest us. And these are playing out in your life as well as in the news. All right. So the first one is an influence that might simultaneously amplify noise, disinformation, various storylines, could involve information that was dredged up during Mercury's most recent retrograde, which went from November 25th to December 6th. And on December 24th, this will hit a moment that demands containment, demands structure, could calm a lot of things down. It could bring a government response in. This is a square between the planets Jupiter, which amplifies everything, and Saturn, planet of adulting. And this is going to tie back to two earlier dates. One of them is August 19th, when Jupiter and Saturn had their first square, and December 20th, January 21st, when Jupiter and Saturn were conjunct. So you might be able to see a storyline going from those. And this time, what is happening is actually a T-square to Saturn, which is a configuration when there are two bodies opposite each other pressing down on the monkey in the middle. Jupiter in Gemini, ruled by Mercury, is opposite Mercury in Sagittarius, ruled by Gemini. So they're egging each other on, and they're equally pressuring Saturn in Pisces. That's thing one. We're feeling it now. It's exact on December 24th.
Mhm.
Then I believe it's the 28th, a few days later, Venus, there's a moment of an unlocking, an awakening, an electrifying shock, a break of some sort. And it also has a shoving, something's got to happen quality to it. And this comes from Venus in Aquarius squaring Uranus in Taurus. These guys are also like Mercury and Jupiter in each other's signs. Venus is in the sign that Uranus rules. Uranus is in one of the signs that Venus rules, which means there's a natural cohesion to whatever is going on here.
For
This
sure.
could have something to do with collectives, with women, with a lucky break, with money, technology, something that seemingly comes out of the blue. Uranus has been sitting at the location where this is going to happen for some time. And this could also play into some of the news about collectives striking workers. So then the next two and the final two really big ones happen on December 30th, which is a new moon in the sign of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, planet of adulting. And it's an uncommonly solemn, forward-looking, what do I really want to have in my life? And it has some edgy undertones to it, indicating that same old isn't going to do the trick. Chiron is also stationing direct when this happens. I'll give it to Louise in a second, but I just want to point to everyone that while this is all happening, Mars is continuing its retrograde through the early degrees of Leo. A Mars retrograde is a time of digging things up, of reworking, of revisiting, of do-overs. And spoiler, and we'll talk about this more later, at the very beginning of January, on January 3rd, Mars hits the point where it was at the US election. Hold that thought, pin it, come back to it. Louise, Chiron stationing direct.
Yeah, Chiron is stationing direct on the same day as the new moon, as Kathy mentioned, at exactly 19 degrees. And that is the exact same degree of the April the 8th total solar eclipse that ran right through the center of the USA from Texas through to Maine, from south to north, splitting the country in two. It's also the same degree Chiron was at when the North Node entered Aries in May of 2023. So there's a lot of stories being revisited again. And I just have to mention, we don't talk about these usually on these calls, but I look at the Sabian symbols, and the Sabian symbol for that point is a magic carpet, but the opposite Sabian symbol, where the moon is today opposing Chiron at the station point, is a gang of robbers in hiding, 19 Libra.
Wow.
And I know. And I said in my morning writing that I guess they're not in hiding anymore, right? So it's all coming to light.
Wow.
Anyway, let's dive in. What are we looking at first? The USA, right?
Let's start with the US, please.
Yeah, this these aspects for this period are just astounding too. And of course, Chiron is a key to healing as well as also the wound, right? So I think we've had the collective identity wound highlighted, and now we're unlocking the healing just to kind of give you a little idea of how I see Chiron's role. Am I
I have,
sharing this chart okay?
oh, could you put the Jupiter-Saturn square transits around it? Is that
Yeah,
possible? While
of
she's doing
course.
that, I'll mention that I see Chiron in Aries as dealing with toxic masculinity of as
Hmm.
aggressiveness kind of like gone out of control. Um,
Yeah, all these things have a few a few kind of sorry, Jupiter Saturn square tomorrow. Okay, there we go. So Jupiter right on the descendant of the USA chart, opposing Mercury on the ascendant, and Saturn there in the third house of community and voice. And this is the identity of the USA. This is just like just massive change. Anyway, go on. You've been looking
well,
at
so
this
the
more,
pressure.
Kathy, because yeah.
Well, Jupiter is over there in the house of allies, but also open enemies. And there's been a lot of talk flying around about attacking our allies and trying to retake things we gave over control of a long time ago. And also like who's our ally, who is the open enemy, and communication and communication systems are huge in this. Broadcasting,
Mm,
social media, and the pressure point for the T-square bearing down on Saturn in the third house is bearing down on it's in the house of communication, and Saturn is in a trine or a direct unbroken flow to the US sun in the seventh house. So this could be a very stabilizing. I see the potential here for multiple realities, multiple storylines
mm,
finally coalescing into one. And as this happens, Jupiter in the seventh house is also in a trine. It's in a trine to Saturn in the US chart in the 10th house. And it could
hmm.
shore something up, solidify something. Um,
Oh, wrong.
and Saturn in the third house of communication is an adjustment aspect to Saturn in the 10th. So there's some kind of adjustment involving laws, rules, maybe
Hmm.
who the leader is, she said hintingly.
Mhm. Absolutely. And, just to mention a couple of things that we have noticed, the Trump organization has been accused of tax evasion by Panama, right?
Right.
And now he's threatening Panama. And there's also some things come to light about Elon Musk and his intentions with crypto. So, talking about communication and ideas as well, and news, Mercury on the ascendant, things are coming to light more and more. So that could change the direction, right?
Andy.
Yeah. And I've said straight from the beginning, that alliances and how we present ourselves on the world stage, how we make connections with people with whom we've already had existing treaties, existing alliances, NATO being the most obvious, would all circle the earth and come back. And it would happen in this period after Mars went retrograde. We all three talked about that. I think it's critical. Trump says the craziest things imaginable. He is the crazy uncle that comes to Thanksgiving that we're embarrassed and we put him off in the corner. And I don't understand how people, I'm going to quick editorial. I don't understand how people think that his rantings and ravings make sense for us or help us on a world stage. So
I know.
my theory has been consistent that information would come back, that Trump's kind of lunacy on the world stage would be an issue, that there would be issues that would happen with the EU in the Middle East, which is already happening, right? It's already happened and it's escalating, and how the United
Mhm.
States military involvement in those things happening around the world, how that might come back and impact whether we felt comfortable with a crazy boy saying crazy things and alienating the very people with whom we've had alliances for 75 years, if we think that that's a good idea moving forward. So, I mean, I find it fascinating, your astrological analysis, because I kind of come at it a little bit differently, but it corresponds bang, bang, bang to all the things that I have thought too. So I do think that this is going to be a very interesting time. And the toxic masculinity thing, I talk about this all
Mhm.
the time. And when we get to that, I have a lot of things I want to say because I'm kind of annoyed with white men. And I do want to talk about that later too. But short and sweet, I believe that Trump, this is an editorial, this is my opinion only. Don't blame Louise, don't blame Kathy for what I'm about to say. But I think Trump is a danger to the United States on the world stage. He's certainly a
Mhm.
danger to women within the United States. And I think that the collective energy, the United States is a very powerful country with a lot going on in lots of directions. I still believe that Trump and Musk and all this lunacy will be investigated, which would go back to what we talked about in November. And that also, if that investigation happens, it could, another prediction we made, certainly that I made, could push the inauguration forward and things could get hairy. And the astrology is crazy. So, I mean, I would expect a lot of things happening over the next
Mm.
28 days that will be
Oh.
earth shattering. So I'm
Mhm.
actually fascinated by your analysis here. But yeah, it's
But
going to
wait, there's
get
more.
entertaining. Well, that's the
Could I
beautiful
could,
part of it, Kathy. I mean, I'm
could
really,
I
this is amazing. I love this.
could I just add one thing about the Chiron in Aries? Because yes, I do agree. It's the toxic masculinity, for sure. But, looking at the USA as an entity as well, it's also the perhaps toxic side of the USA, thinking it was like, leader of the world. And now it's realizing it has to be in alliance with others. And so, I know people don't like that. So I got some criticism as well when I on my YouTube, for calling out the USA as saying, that the USA has seen itself as just leaders of the world and could do nothing wrong almost in some ways. And that is kind of being healed because the USA is having its Chiron return in the fourth house, which is its basis of security and stability and its inner identity, if you like, as well. So, you know, there has been this greed is good, selfishness, autocratic kind of me first kind of attitude within the USA itself. And I think that is up for healing as well as just men. It's not just about men. So anyway, there you
Absolutely.
go.
And back in 2006 and 2007, when I said there was going to be a housing reversal,
Hmm.
because to me it seemed obvious. No one goes, "Oh no, that can't happen here because the United States is so big and bad and wonderful." I go, "The United
Hmm.
States is not immune to the laws of economics. The United
Hmm.
States math works here as well as it works in Argentina or works in
Yeah.
Taiwan." And
Yes.
and the idea, you can tell I'm on a roll this morning. The idea that the United States thinks that they should dominate everything because they're the United States originates within the United States. And I think the big challenge that's facing the United States is whether everyone else will go along with it. And I think part of the astrological configurations of what's happening is really an opportunity for us to go, is this really working for us? Is having a crazy boy saying crazy things because it makes racists and misogynists happy, is this the way we want to present ourselves to the world? I don't think it is. I don't think it's a
Hmm.
successful plan forward. And I do believe that the pressures from other players, especially as Russia's power diminishes, which I've been saying, and I think that's happening live in 3D, as all that happens, will we support crazy white boys? And I know I'm annoying a lot of people. It's been my job, I guess, in life. But I think it needs to be addressed, and I think that the astrology that you and Kathy are bringing up really kind of speaks to that really eloquently. And I think also when you look at the Chiron return down here in the fourth, then we got to kind of look at the moon, and the moon in the USA chart is in Aquarius. Venus is going to hit that here.
Hmm.
How does the United States present itself to the world? All that's up for grabs. And I think there's going to be a lot of questions about whether having Trump and Musk and this, you know, Project 2025 stuff is the way we really want to be seen by other people. So I'll stop now
Hmm.
for a minute. But that's how
Hmm.
I see it. And you all can blame me, but that's how I see it.
So since you mentioned Venus and Aquarius, can we move to the Venus-Uranus square, Louise?
Absolutely.
I
And
would,
just note, I mean, I'm going to get it exact, but really kind of all of this is kind of happening, pretty much at the same time because they're
right.
so close together. I just
Which
want
is
you.
crazy. I mean, really, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, that would
Mhm.
also add to the likelihood of stuff going bing, bang, boom all over the place. So,
Mhm.
pinball machine around the world, popcorn on the
Yep.
stove, baby. It's on. Game the F on, babe. So yeah.
So, so Venus, planet of money, planet of values in the sign of the collective and technology. On the 28th is in the US second house of money and resources, and it's exactly squaring Uranus at 23 degrees Taurus in the US house of the sixth house of the way we normally do things. And Venus is heading for a conjunction with the US moon. I'm just going to say there's going to be something that is revealed that's awakening, that's startling, that's going to involve technology, that may involve money, that
Mhm.
changes the normal order of doing things. Venus is in an adjustment aspect with the US Mercury up there in the eighth house of investments and other people's money, and let's be honest, criminality, and in a sextile or an opportunity aspect with that Uranus in the sixth house. Meanwhile, Neptune, Louise has been drawing, oh my God, there's a yacht. I
A
didn't
yard.
see that. That's beautiful. There's the finger of God. So you see that long triangle pointing down at Venus. It involves Neptune in the ninth house. Well, gee, foreign broadcasting, information channels, disinformation,
Mhm.
Mercury also in information. Uh, so this would be like outer and inner enemies passing
Mhm.
information down to or affecting what do we value, what's going on here, and some
Mhm.
kind of big change in the way we do things. Huge
Yeah.
change in the way we do things. That will be shocking.
And one example of that, I think we're already seeing, is this Forbes had a news report about Elon Musk's plans for creating something to do with crypto and
Yeah, yeah,
X
yeah.
or Twitter, so money. Because I think crypto is a big scam, and that's partly why they're all behind it. So anyway, go. I'm not an
Well,
expert in
right.
those fields, but Venus is money, and yeah.
So something could come out that really shakes up the normal way we do things.
Hmm.
Those of you
Hmm.
who are saying, oh, there's no way the inauguration could be changed. Well, this this little line up here says, don't be so sure of that.
Hmm. Hmm.
There are any other number of ways this could be playing out as well. And
Oh,
there's
absolutely.
information coming out that Peter Thiel's group, Palantir, is trying to put together a consortium to go after Defense Department contracts. There could be something coming out involving that. If there is evidence of foreign interference in the November election, this is a window with that Jupiter-Saturn square pulling in Mercury, and then this shocking, oh my God, something new has to happen.
Hmm.
Uh, this is saying that those of us who've been kind of more than hinting that that's floating around the background may very well be proven right during this window.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to go back on my editorial. I guess I'm the whatever the wild card in this equation. Uh, I think it really needs to be investigated how these men are maneuvering their way into multi-billion-dollar contracts. And to me, that's what the game is all about, baby. And I think that when we look at the money trail with Musk and Thiel and certainly Trump, that I think that needs to be investigated. These dudes could not get
Hmm.
a security clearance. When I worked for, the Defense Intelligence Agency, I didn't have a security clearance, so I had to have a Marine go to the bathroom with me. I and the reason for that, I just didn't have time. But these dudes could not get a security clearance, and certainly Trump couldn't because of his financial past. So
Hmm.
why we're allowing, just because he won the election, which I'm not convinced is true anyway, and I'm on an editorial rant, forgive me, the Democrats should not be, oh, we can't do what Trump did if there's a reason to really investigate this election. But bottom line, the trail of money, and as it's likely to be revealed when all this information comes out of the EU, which goes back to the very first thing I said, that the changes that would happen because of things happening with Russia and NATO and Eastern Europe, in intelligence information might come back that would show that there is financial things behind the scenes that are not exactly legal, kosher, non-fattening, whatever. And the fact that these men are trying to do a land grab for billions of dollars needs to be
Hmm.
investigated. And we just can't go, oh, well, he won. That's the way it should be. Are we going to protect ourselves or not? There are laws in place. And again, last part of my rant. I'm sorry, y'all. What the hell? I'm like this today. There are laws in place already that should put Trump and shut him down. But oh no, we can't because he's a president. But there's already laws to look at this. So going back to the astrology. I don't know what I ate for breakfast this morning. Going back to the astrology, these things, information, the skeletons in the closet here are likely to start rattling and roll out into the floor. And when that happens, is somebody within the United States going to be strong enough to go, okay, this is what it really says? And is there going to be pressure? I mean, look at what everybody around the world says about the United States and Trump. Is there going to be pressure from the rest of the world with the United States as a preeminent military force on Earth that they don't want some dude that's potentially compromised steering the ship? So, hi, sorry, this is me. Happy Merry Christmas.
This chart reflects what you've just said because it has the
Mhm.
moon in
It does.
Sagittarius in the 12th house. That's foreign contacts, foreign peoples hidden behind the scenes. That's an exact trine to the US North Node, our path in the 8th, our alliances, our investments. And that moon is moving into an opposition to Uranus in the US chart. It's there.
Mhm.
This is when information is going to start really coming to light from the other
Mhm.
countries, as you've been saying, Andy.
Mhm. And leading to the new moon, I mean, I don't think we need to move the chart because when the moon moves close and we have the new moon in the first house, pretty much opposing the sun of the USA, that's when action will start to be taken, I think.
And that's the day of the
I think that too.
Mhm.
Chiron direct as well.
It is the same day, yep, and just before another Mars-Pluto opposition.
Wow,
It's
that's wild.
So big stuff. I mean,
and
I'm sorry, go on.
sorry, I was just going to say, and that Mars-Pluto opposition is going to be in aspect to the midheaven of the USA, of course. So,
Oh, wow, that's right.
all of this is just lining up.
Oh, it
Oh,
says
sorry.
Neptune.
Oh, yes, I know. I hit the wrong button.
As this happens, the nodes are on the US 4th and 10th house cusps. They're there. They're just
Mhm,
sitting there. Now, the nodes are where we came from, what our default actions are, and where
mhm,
we're heading. So the new way that we're going to, the new self-sufficiency, the new way we're going to use our Martian energy, that's Aries on the
mhm,
4th.
I love that already. I have
mhm.
pictures of little dudes with, little guns and our Martian energy. I think that should be a thing. Sorry.
Yep. And all of this, the nodes by transit on with the south node on the midheaven is kind of saying no more playing nice and rolling over. And Mars retrograde is kind of reflecting how it stands up for itself, kind of thing, or how we stand up for our selves in the US. And it's all forming what's called a mystic rectangle, right? With Pluto in Aquarius here. So all of this is just, and look at what's at the midpoint of Pluto and the North Node. Venus has moved into Pisces in the third house.
Wow.
And
Wow.
people,
Wow.
evidence of the feminine coming to the fore.
Yeah. Yeah, the feminine coming to the fore. Venus is strong in Pisces as well, said to be an exaltation. Um, it's all of these aspects over this short period from today, where we're recording this, to January the 3rd, are just astounding, to be quite honest. So,
So who do we want to look at next with all of this? Do we want to wait and end with the really good stuff and get some of the uncomfortable people out of the way?
let's quickly get some of the uncomfortable people out of the way, because I am on vacation and my husband's waiting to go to brunch. So let's quickly go through. Who are we looking? Who's uncomfortable? Musk first, or?
Let's put Musk up.
Hmm.
So he's really going to be affected by this Jupiter Saturn square. Can you put it back to December
Yep.
24th square?
Yeah. Yep.
Because the T square, which is like pulling a bow and arrow, is going across Mercury is in his 5th house of speculation and risk taking. Jupiter is in 11th house of his associations. It's also where Congress sits. And they're pushing on Saturn in his 8th house of investments, other people's money, and criminality. Let's be honest here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is widely pulling in his moon in the 2nd house of his own values and his own money. And we've discussed his moon in Virgo before. Although he is an emotional person, his attitude about money is very calculating with that
Mm-hmm.
there. So as this happens, Saturn up there, which could be some entity saying stop it and just
Mm-hmm.
starting to clamp down on him. It's hitting some stuff in his chart. So Saturn is in a trine to his Mercury and his ascendant. So there could be something that says stop with what you're doing.
Mm,
Or he could, like,
absolutely.
it could also be that he achieves something. I'll have to say that. And
Yeah.
it's in but it's a defining moment in how he's going about things and all the stuff that he has been saying.
Well, I'm laughing in astrology language, by the way, people here, in case you don't think I take these things seriously, at what's happening at the same moment on that square. Venus will be at 19 degrees of Aquarius on his Mars in that 8th house of joint shared resources. Chiron at the station point in the 9th house of foreign dealings and aspecting his natal Venus, money in the 12th house. We're finding out, stuff about his dealings, money dealings, and things like that. And I always think these things are giving us an opportunity to heal. It's just, will we?
You got anything to say about what the Jupiter-Saturn square might do to Elon?
Well, I hope it does a lot. I mean, that's again the editorial. The thing that jumps out to me, I always come back to kind of his 12th house, and I still think that Musk and Trump have a lot of feelings of inadequacy. The thing that jumps out in Musk's chart to me right now, and I was thinking the same thing that Louise said about Venus hitting his Mars at 20 Aquarius. But the thing that also jumps out to me in his chart, and I'm curious what you two think about this, is this opposition with Saturn and Neptune, especially when we look at the mutual reception here of Jupiter and Mercury, and the kind of all the degrees are off, but the sign and the the flip and the opposition is happening. How do you two think that will play out with he's got Saturn at 1 Gemini opposing Neptune at 0 Sag, with Jupiter and Mercury being flipped in Gemini and Sag as well? This is the astrologer me asking questions to other astrologers, because I'm actually kind of fascinated what your take on that might be.
I'll let you go on with that, Cassie.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
My mind kind of wandered a little bit there. So
I'm
sorry.
not sure what to make of that. When I look at that, I think, okay, so Pluto in Aquarius is trining his Saturn. Pluto in the 7th house of allies and open enemies. So there's a focus on how many deals can he make, but also a focus on how is this shut down. And there's an international element to it with Neptune in Sagittarius. I do think that there is a very strong bit of, I don't know if magical thinking is the right phrase to describe the Saturn-Neptune opposition that you're pointing out, Andy, if it's more aggrandized notions of his own authority.
I think that's true, Kathy. And I think that what I would think, especially with Saturn being there in the 11th, Musk, it seems to me, wants to be seen as a player. He wants to be seen as it. And to me, he just does crazy things. Again, the dude who's the
Mm.
loudest is not the most powerful. Usually it's the one who's the loudest is the least powerful. And that we can apply that to Trump and Musk. But the way that I would interpret this opposition, especially between 11 and 5, is that he's not fully conscious of what he's doing. And when pressures are applied to people who are in a compensatory state of mind, who have gigantic pressures, something I've talked about with Trump, where I thought that Trump would have issues throughout the year because of all the pressures being applied to him. I would think that Musk, as these things begin to be revealed, which is what I would expect, financial sort of improprieties. And he's also in a contentious relationship with Trump now, which just makes the drama, the psychodrama, even more entertaining, does it not? My take on that particular aspect would be someone who's trying to present himself in a certain way, who wants to hang out. I got Saturn in the 11th. Who are my friends? How do I appear? Do you like me? You think I'm cool? Can I go to the prom? And with the flip of Mercury and Jupiter, how does justice apply here? And what is the narrative going to be? Because Jupiter is the big daddy. He's not, Jupiter's kind of like, well, okay, boys, let me explain how it works. So I would think that this is really a time where Musk, his fantasy about what he's trying to do, because he's kind of getting caught up with himself, I'm on a roll, baby. I'm going to be a bad boy. I just think that somebody comes in and goes, the adult, and what you two talk about with Saturn and as adulting, I think the adults in the room would say, no, Maz, it's not happening. So that would be the way I was just curious what you two would think.
I would agree. And, that whole lineup of the Mars-Pluto opposition and aspecting the transiting lunar nodes is hitting that Saturn-Neptune opposition big time. And one way of seeing that Neptune in Sagittarius in the 5th is kind of his delusions of being like this world ruler kind of thing. He's buying Farage in the UK now and funding this German Nazi party, and he's got his fingers in every pie in every country in the world pretty much right now, and people are realizing it and finding out. So, yeah.
Can we move to the Venus
Yeah,
Uranus square? Because that
sure.
does some interesting things to him.
It does. Hang on. I'm just Venus square Uranus. Oh, yeah. So that's Venus has just moved to 23 from 19 it was before.
So it's in his
Uranus.
house of other people's deals and also criminality, and it's squaring Uranus in the 11th house of group. There could be a big break with someone that he's associated with because of
Yeah.
Amen to that. And there should be. And I think that his associations are probably, again, not all legal, or they're certainly kind of pushing the envelope of what's, standardized. And how have we thrown out the standards of behavior? Trump has allowed us to all be, petulant 12-year-olds. I mean, we would not tolerate Trump's behavior in our son in 5th grade. So how does this become the standard and the norm? And I got plenty to say on that later. So sorry. Again, I guess today must have been the cornflakes with something. But I would think that Musk and Trump both have things that they've seen some sort of financial gain from, whether this be Starlink or whether this be whatever, that may come to light that we'd have to go, is that really the way we want to do business? It may be legal, maybe, but is that really the way we want to operate moving forward? And I'm hopeful that happens. And I think the astrology really kind of speaks to the probability, at least, that it could happen, because the shaking, bacon, and what's going on, baby, kind of part of it is inevitable to me, I think. So bring it. So what can I say? Today is my day to be like, so yeah, I,
And if you move this to the Capricorn new moon at 9 degrees Capricorn,
Mhm.
that is exactly squaring his Uranus in the third. If he's going to snap, that would be a time when it would be. And it's trining
Moon.
his own moon.
Mhm.
So some kind of financial protecting his own financial interests will come out of this, but there's going to be
Mm.
perhaps information he doesn't want. It could have a legal overtone to it with Uranus being in Libra.
Mhm.
simplistic astrology, but the moon in the second house might be financial ups and downs. So
And that Venus at that point will have moved to sit on the USA moon. I still have a feeling a lot of this is like the people of the USA waking up and demanding something be done.
let's hope.
People really finally seeing, what's really going on.
You want to look at Trump next, or is there more you want to say about this?
No, I'm good. So let me just get Trump.
And we'll leave it with the good news,
Yes.
with the quiet people.
While you're pulling that up, I want to editorialize here for just a second, if I may. And it involves men and feeling that they can say the most crass, obnoxious thing to women in public or be belligerent, sexist, rude, aggressive. This stuff has to end. And we need, and especially men, need to stand up for this. I want to tell a quick story. I got into like a little thing a couple of weeks ago. Some dude here in Ohio was driving around with his Confederate flag. I don't remember Ohio being in the Confederacy. Driving around this Confederate flag, and he parked, and I went up to him and had a little conversation with him, kind of got in his face, and I'm 69 years old. So the way that men are operating since Trump, I mean, I realize men are goofballs and obnoxious from jump. And again, what you're saying about women and Venus and Pisces, please, please, please let the divine feminine come to fore. But what's happening with men in this country being rude, aggressive, sexist, and thinking that that's cool and that's okay because Daddy Trump it does the same thing, this crap needs to end. And I think that the worst thing that's come out of Trump is his normalizing this misogynistic, self-entitled thing. And final thing, and again, I don't know what was in the cornflakes this morning, but I don't eat cornflakes. This guy that they have up for the Secretary of Defense, this dude from Fox News, he's a sexist, he's a rapist, he's done all sorts of things, but he's found Jesus. He's found Jesus, baby. So it's all good. This also needs to be thrown off the ark, dumped into the Bay of Pigs or whatever. And we need to get back to some kind of standard of decorum and of relating to one another. It's not all about this misogynist white boy because Trump speaks his mind. Well, I'm speaking my mind this morning, and I'm over it. And I'm sure there are a lot of people who are over it, and women have to be over it. And we need to start doing things to push back against this, because this cannot be the way we all want to operate moving forward. It can't. It can't. We can't live in a world with 55-year-old men who think they act like third graders can get away with this. It has to change. And I'm praying that the astrology is going to speed up the things that we've been talking about. And but I've said from a long time, women will save us because men are running us into the ground. And this white boy nonsense, and yes, you all can blame me. Louise didn't say it, Kathy didn't say it, but I'm for sure saying it. This white boy nonsense is ridiculous and needs to come to an end. And I'm hopeful that we learn how to act with each other in public and in courtesy and civility, and things change. So yeah, and I'm looking forward to what you two have to say about Trump. Sorry.
And I have to say, as a woman, we've known that this was like this all along. It's just people, it's just in our faces now. So, anyway.
You draw the lines of the T-square to show people where it is.
Mm-hmm.
So Jupiter is up there in Trump's 10th house, public reputation, and it is squaring Saturn in his house of allies and open enemies. And Jupiter is opposing Mercury down in his house of uh, home base, security, and that's making a T-square to Saturn in the 7th house of allies and open enemies. Louise has drawn that Jupiter is in a very tight trine with Trump's own Chiron, his the kinds of deals that he makes really being what will trip him up, his relationships, and
It's,
that's in an adjustment aspect. Oh, look at that grand trine.
hmm
What do you make of that?
I think this is going to reveal that his own. I see Trump as a very damaged human being, right? He's clearly comes from a horrendous family. Not, and this is kind of revealing that his own wounds are not meeting the people's needs, and he is taking his own wounds out on us, and that's that information coming to light that he is doing that.
Yeah. And Louise, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah,
Absolutely, 100% in every way.
yeah.
And Saturn's in an adjustment aspect with his Chiron. I'm
hmm
going to say, remember that this ties back to August 19th. Okay. It also ties back to,
hmm
I said, December of 2020 when Jupiter and Saturn were conjunct, and carries into 2021. And what happened in 2021? Why, there was a big party at the Capitol with lots of people with guns and defecating and trying to mess with the vote. So something big going on with this. Now, I don't know if this means there'll be a push for the 14th Amendment, which personally, lawyer me says isn't going to get anywhere because of Congress
mm
being so beholden to him. But I'm betting that
mm
there's other stuff, open enemies coming out, maybe other
mm
governments, maybe this government, but something saying, stop, not so
hmm
fast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And just without even moving the chart on, that Chiron station is aspecting his nodes as well, from that eighth house of, you know, corruption and and hidden um, joint kind of resources and connections. His sordid kind of mafia behavior, for want of a better kind of thing, is even more coming to light. I mean, part of that's come up with the Apprentice movie, and it's and we're just seeing he's just like tax evasion in Panama as well. He's just such a corrupt human. So
But could you put the Venus Uranus square, because there's something interesting I want to point out. If people could see it, that would be helpful.
hmm
And again,
hmm
this is on December 28th. It is right before the new moon, and so Uranus is basically sitting right behind his midheaven. It's just been there for weeks and weeks and weeks and
hmm
weeks, and that's a very propulsive, tension building position. And I have been saying that Uranus moving across his midheaven has been operating like a wrecking ball, destabilizing
hmm
his place in the world. I don't care if the AP called the election for him. This is destabilizing. And on the 28th, Venus is going to square that. There could be a woman, there could be information, there could be a public sentiment that says, get the wrecking ball in motion.
Or
And
more information about his
more,
money dealings,
more
tax
information about
evasion.
Yes,
money.
yes, 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 Louise, for sure.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and using technology and money
yes,
dealings to use technology.
yes.
Just remember that, okay? Money dealings to use technology. And then when we get to
Yes.
the new moon, so the sun is going to be, sun and the moon are in his fifth house. That's speculation, among other things, also children. And when
Mm-hmm.
they hit 9 degrees Capricorn, it's going to be opposite his Mercury, his planet of communication. There could be more that comes out, something challenging, and it's going
Mm-hmm.
to square his Neptune in Libra in the second house. That's money laundering. That's
Mm-hmm.
grifting.
Yep.
This is not good news. All right. So
No.
the last 2 days of the month are not good news for him at all.
And look at this. I mean, it's almost exactly in a sextile aspect to his natal Saturn. Whoops, that the line didn't quite do it right. But and his Saturn is conjunct. Oh, sorry, the lines are not working. I'll just point at it. Because I'm on my laptop. So there's his Saturn conjunct Venus in Cancer. And, the 23-degree mark is just hitting that Saturn exactly on that Venus Uranus square as well. Things are going to come to light for sure. We're going to get clarity about what's been going on with him. More
Again,
clarity.
not good news, not good
No,
news, not good news.
no, not at all. So, shall we go
And
to the good news, or do we want to say any more on him?
Andy, do you want to say anything about the aspects to Trump's chart, or we move to Biden?
I think we should just move to Biden. I mean, I've been kind of on a rant and roll here. I mean, you
All
two
right.
have covered him really well.
Now, Andy
I mean, there's
said
things I could say, but no, I think we're good, and I don't want to take too much time.
being loud is often a sign of
Weakness.
weakness. Being quiet, often a sign of strength. Could you put this back to the Jupiter-Saturn square?
Sure.
So
Okay.
this is December 24th we're talking about.
Tomorrow.
Right. So we're already feeling it as this is as we're recording this. So Jupiter's in his seventh house of allies and open enemies, and it's opposing Mercury in his first house, and they are pushing down on Saturn in his third house. Something happening that pushes him into speaking with authority, making decisions, being the adult, doing something to clamp down on the every which way that's been going on. And Saturn is in a trine to his Mars in Scorpio. So it's an unbroken flow. He will know what to do. This could have people keep talking about the sting of the Scorpio tail. A scorpion's tail, could well be a factor. And where's his natal Saturn? Because it plays into that as well.
It's in
His
Gemini.
natal Saturn there.
Right, right. So that's been kind of worked on. I mean, honestly,
And the Capricorn New Moon,
oh,
Saturn ruled Capricorn New Moon is at 9 degrees Capricorn in his first house, in an adjustment aspect to his natal Saturn in Gemini communication. So
being a leader in a way that he normally isn't.
yeah. I think we've
And
talked about that before, him having to kind of, say things and do things that he would not normally have done before. Yeah.
and
And
Uranus is playing a role in this as well. Uranus is opposing his Mercury. It's moved past it, but it's there. And Venus in the third house of communication, values, the people, moving toward the US moon, moving toward his north node. He's doing something. It could involve disclosures about money. It could involve technology. It could involve a woman.
Yeah. And also Chiron, stationing direct, 19 Aries, is still in adjustment aspect to his natal Mercury as well. So, he's being pushed shall we say, to speak out more and more.
Yeah, and a really strong quincunx, no matter what it is, between Scorpio and Aries is going to have some fire and some heat to it, no matter what.
Oh,
And I think that the other thing, just real quickly, is that Biden has been a champion of NATO, and he has a lot of street cred with NATO. And I think that there is a trust that's built up between NATO and Biden that they do not have in any way, shape, or form with Trump. And so, does Biden step up to try to save NATO and kind of save the planet? And how does he go about doing that? I think that he must be wrestling with these questions on a pretty much daily basis. And I would think that again, with Chiron and Mercury, how does he speak up? His desire to be a healer, Chiron, and his desire to express himself in a powerful way, Mercury and Scorpio. Again, a quincunx between anything, in my opinion, that involves Aries and Scorpio. There's going to be, to quote Kathy a little bit, I'm going to paraphrase it, that scorpion sting is going to start stinging. I mean, these are two intense, spur of the moment kinds of signs. And I just think that I love the quincunx aspect. I always think it's a triggering agent that sometimes gets ignored because the math is harder to see it right off the top of your head. But I think his desire to go ahead.
Of course, they're both Mars rule signs traditionally, and Mars retrograde is coming to that Mars Pluto opposition that we talked about. So, yeah, that's kind of revisiting how he kind of steps up into using his power, really. So,
and the fact that Chiron is in here, it kind of goes to his desire to be the protective Joe. How does he do that? What steps does he take in order to try to be a strong, calming voice, which you could almost look at his entire presidency, as a desire to try to reverse the craziness of the Trump era. I think he's going to be, got just that last bit of fire in the tank that he's about to really step up here. Whether he does it overtly or whether he's doing it behind the scenes, I think that Biden's influence here is significant. And I think his alliances and his career and all the people he knows and all of his connections with the military, the United States military is very well respected there, I believe. I think that this is a very significant thing. And I'm really looking forward to what you two have to say about Kamala. But yeah, the Mars, I got stuff to do and I don't wait around, I think is going to come into play here with his Mercury and how he expresses himself in public.
And there's other aspects we could talk about, but let's move on to Kamala because this is getting long. Yeah.
And this gets really exciting. Now, I want to remind people that what is happening on the 24th is the next phase of a story that connects to August 19th, 2020. That was when the Democratic National Convention started. Jupiter and Saturn were squared at 17 degrees, and Venus was opposite Saturn at 17 actually, it was at 18 Virgo, right on top of Kamala's Venus at 17 Virgo. So that was a really energizing moment for her. On December 24th, when there is this next phase, the T-square itself pushes into her 10th house of, oh, gee, look, career and public status. And it pulls in her Uranus in the 3rd house. Something very sudden. Something, it doesn't like it. I don't know why it doesn't like it.
No, I know.
Something very sudden. Something very sudden could be activated for her. That Uranus and Pluto, we've mentioned before, is part of a signature from the mid to late-ish 60s of people who were born then, and it's like their change agent programming, and hers is improving, bettering, being an agent for the rights of, oh, look, Venus is there, women in her homeland. This
Hmm.
is an
And I would
important
like to
trend
remind
for her.
everybody as well that that 14 Gemini is the point of their Venus star point that we're under at the moment, that began on June the 4th, and she is a Gemini star point. And I did loads of videos leading up to the election saying this is her time. So for so many reasons, and this T square is activating the current Gemini star point. So, you know, it's bringing her more to the fore again in so many ways. Immutable signs, which is change. So
And then
it's just, yeah.
the Venus Uranus square has Venus in her eighth,
I
ninth
will
house,
get to that.
legalities, the government. It has Venus moving in toward her Saturn, her adulting, her leadership planet, and it's squaring Jupiter on
Hmm.
her, I mean, squaring Uranus on her Jupiter in the 12th house. Something very unexpected and of massive good fortune to her could break forward here, and it could come through technology involving
Hmm.
foreign countries. That's the ninth house. That's Aquarius, where the Venus is.
And it's opposing Mars.
Oh, and that's going to be, and
So it's
Venus is
forming a fixed T.
a fixed T square to that Uranus on her Jupiter. This is like resistance is futile, folks.
Yeah,
And her Venus is going to be on that Saturn
it's just,
around January 2nd, right before Mars completes its opposition to Pluto and activates a revisit of the election. Don't go screaming, people, but this is what this says.
mhm.
This is what the astrology
It is
says.
what it says.
And then the
Yeah.
Capricorn new
And but
moon,
as always, of course, we have free will, you know.
but she's coming into the
Yeah,
news
go
one
on.
way or another.
Sorry.
And the Capricorn new moon
Yeah,
at
she
9 degrees Capricorn in her house of allies and open enemies is trining distantly, but trining her Uranus down there in the fourth house.
is. Yep. And the Mars Pluto opposition. Shall we finish with that one?
Oh yeah, let's do that.
So,
Just real quickly, I want to say this about Kamala, besides the fact that I love her and I've always admired her. When you see Venus getting up at 27, 28 Aquarius, it's conjuncting her natal Saturn, but it's also conjuncting the US's natal moon. And I think that
mhm.
conjunction between Saturn and the moon, as Venus sort of initiates that, Kamala has the potential to have a very healing energy for the United States on a collective level. And I think, and she's also got that opposition, you know, with her sun and moon there at 27. So 27 and 28 degrees is going to be hitting her rather significantly. But again, the Saturn and the USA moon, I think, is a big deal. We've talked about that before, but I just want to say that real quickly. I think it's going to come into prominence. So I do think that she will have her day in the sun is still, in my opinion, going to happen.
And she'll
Well,
be the adult in the room.
And looky at this on the second Mars Pluto opposition. Venus will have moved into Pisces and be just 2 degrees from midheaven, her most public place of and it's at doing all those aspects to the lunar nodes by transit, and it's all aspecting her natal Mercury in Scorpio in the fifth house.
Yeah, the trine to her Mercury down there at one Scorpio, you would think that that would also be really significant when that happens, in my opinion. So I agree with that, Louise, totally.
And Mercury rules her ascendant. So that's her public face.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Mercury, that is her public face, and
Not
her
out of the picture,
voice,
folks.
and she's not. Oh, and I don't think that we could go into more her all these aspects leading to. So I better go. Got to go to brunch. I'm supposed to be on vacation, but this is also exciting. We have to do this anyway. So, oh, my
Happy
internet's going
holidays,
unstable as
everyone.
well. So, yes, happy
Happy Santa
holidays.
to everybody.
Bye. We'll be back
Bye-bye.
later in the week as well. So, with some more, because things will be revealed. Bye.
For sure.